Thank you all so much for coming.
Hello, everyone. I will jump in after Jeffrey to say hello as well as you all are typing your introductions into the chat. My name is AeJay Mitchell. I am the artistic producer here at Playwrights Foundation. And I use they, them pronouns. However, I use any pronoun stated with love and care. And a play that has really inspired me lately is Terry Guest's The Magnolia Ballet. I'm really excited about that work and his play with young male queerness, as well as relationship between Black men. So I'm excited about his work.
Hi, everyone. I'll go next. I'll jump in. My name is Abby Pañares, and I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager here at Playwrights Foundation. I use she, her pronouns. And I was also going to say Starfinch's play, Shipping and Handling, Jeff, just because we saw it recently, and it really blew my mind as we, discuss the future and how AI plays a role into that. I guess to expand on that, paired with that play, I was also really inspired by the play Big Data, which I saw here in San Francisco at ACT, which also tackled the same themes, but was very different structurally and in content. So yes, that is me, and it's good to see you all.
What's up, everyone? I'll jump in. My name is Aidaa Peerzada, and I use she, her pronouns. And I was a participant in last year's Bay Area Playwrights Festival. And this year I'm supporting the team as a selection advisor. And I'm so happy to be here with you all and talk about the application process. I am tuning in from colonially known as DC, Daly City. I like to say that because I'm a transplant from the DMV here on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone territory. And a writer that's really, well, everybody stole my answer too. I was going to talk about Star as well. But I'll talk about someone else who's a part of the Playwrights Foundation family, Lee Marshall. I had the opportunity to read an excerpt of Spells for Going Forth by Daylight. And it was super trippy and interesting and set in, it's exploring like Cleopatra's post-mortal journey. And I thought that was so interesting. And I was like, I want to read the whole thing. So that was exciting to read something that made me want to read the whole play. Yeah, I see so many responses in the chat. We have people from Minnesota, New York.
I guess I'll go. I'm Cynthia Garcia. I'm from the Houston area here in Texas. It's very hot. I quite enjoy Sophie Treadwell's Mackinac. It's one of my all-time favorite plays. I just like the structure and just the way that she set it up with the sounds and the movement. You can sort of envision it if you haven't seen the play. I just love the writing. I think it's just for the time period in which it comes to our attention. I think it's just I don't know, a game changer, and I'm quite inspired by the work. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you all so much. I think that in the interest of time, maybe we should continue on and we can get the program running today. Great. We'd like to start with a land acknowledgement of the Ohlone people. We, the Playwrights Foundation, I'll read this text out loud. You can see it there. Respectfully acknowledge that our offices here are based on the unceded territory of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We are guests here, and we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their ancestral homeland. It is a privilege to call this our home, and we wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community, and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. The land that we call San Francisco is the land of the original people referred to as the Ramaytush Chochenyo word, meaning the people of the West. Their ancestors of the Ramaytush Ohlone have lived on this land for thousands of years. The Yelamu tribelet of the Ramaytush Ohlone lived on this land before they were murdered by Spanish colonists and missionaries who came to this area in 1769. There are no known living descendants of the Yelamu because of this genocide, and only one lineage of original peoples in the area is known to have produced living descendants. That lineage originated from the Arami tribe at the village of Timiktak, near what is now referred to as Pacifica. We encourage you to also find out about the land that you occupy on native-land.ca and join us in seeking to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. Speaking of values and acknowledgements, today I'm going to give you a brief agenda and rundown of how this evening is going to work. We expect that there's going to be kind of an expository section of maybe 45 to 50 minutes, followed by a Q&A. And in this first part, we're going to talk about our core values as a foundation. We're going to give you an overview of the Bay Area Playwrights Festival program. We're going to speak about what kind of scripts the Bay Area Playwrights Foundation is looking for this opportunity. We're going to walk you through the application process, including what to prepare, or the open-ended questions that we're going to ask of y'all as applicants, and changes from the last application cycle. We're going to speak about how the scripts are evaluated. We're going to show you the application portal, and throughout, please drop your questions in the chat. We'll be collecting them and we'll address them in a Q&A. Our intention in this is to be as transparent as possible about who we are, what we are committed to, what we find important, and to try to prepare you as best as we can for the application, and really hopefully establish a level of trust with y'all that you're willing to share your incredible work with us in this. Okay, cool. So if we could maybe speak about the values.
Hi, everyone. So just chiming in here as well. So these Playwrights Foundation core values is something that we as an organization use as really like a guiding light when we make our different decisions, when we think about programming and who we're serving. We are a small organization, but this is what helps us make those decisions at the end of each day. We talk about it at the top of every single staff meeting. So this is something that we wanted to share with y'all. So I'm just going to go ahead and read them one by one. And these are some questions that we ask ourselves as a team. We also say them at our board meetings as well. So one of our first values is being playwright centered. So how do we radically center the voices of playwrights? Another value of ours is community. We are always wondering how we cultivate meaningful community, or a meaningful community of relationships. Next is equity. So we're always asking ourselves, how do we remove barriers and increase access to our programs? How do we do this through information? And what are all the ways that we could continue to do that? The other value we have is inclusion. How do we create a belonging for a diversity of identities? The other commitment we have is a local commitment. We are based in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we're always wondering, how do we continue to strengthen and deepen our San Francisco Bay Area relationships? Another value of ours is innovation. How do we support creative experimentation and innovation with our craft, with playwriting, with our text, with our systems, how we do things internally as an organization? And then the last one we'll talk about is transparency. How do we clearly and honestly communicate at all levels? One of our values is having sessions like this, and that transparency is something that we're trying to uplift by being as communicative as possible and essentially providing as much information as we can when we have it. So those are our values, and thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, I think we share these values. You'll hear us refer to these throughout this presentation. Any of the programming decisions that we make, any of the shape of the application itself, we are always trying to root in these values. So that's why we share them now, I think. All right, moving on. AeJay, could you speak a little bit about what the nature of this festival is?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm so happy to see all of you all in this meeting today, and really talk about what Bay Area Playwrights Festival is. So Bay Area Bay Area Playwrights Festival is one of the oldest new play festivals in the country, having served hundreds of playwrights over its 47 years. We are still here, and it's so exciting that we get to be here. And really, we are seeking to uplift playwrights who are pushing boundaries of what is traditionally being represented on the American theater stage. We value artistic experimentation, we value innovation and form and content and in style, and as well as expanding representation of communities that have been historically and intentionally excluded from the conversation of the American theater. And the Bay Area Playwrights Festival is in its second year of a large programmatic shift. So we used to have a festival every year in which every summer we will have a new festival in. However, now we are doing every other year. And this is to allow for a longer developmental process and give time for our playwrights to work longer with us as a team at Bay Area Playwrights Festival, as well as work longer with their creative team. And who is a part of your creative team, you may ask? If you are selected for the Bay Area Playwrights Festival, you are really focused on, we're focused on growing your artistic goals. We're focused on career advancement, and we're focused on your journey to a production on stages in the Bay Area and across the US. And we do this by connecting you with a professional team. You are connected to a dramaturg, director, as well as Bay Area actors and other artists as needed. Those other artists may include content experts, right? If someone's coming in that you really need some experienced ideas about a specific item in your play, a content expert may be invited into the process with you. Also, the artistic team members will accompany playwrights on a 3-day retreat. This retreat typically happens in the fall around September, October. And so it'll be fall 2025. And you also receive approximately 23 hours of rehearsal time over 2 weeks and 2 stage readings at the festival, which will take place in spring of 2026. Last year, our festival, or this year, our festival was in April. And next 2026, we're hoping that it will be either in April or March, but in the springtime at some point.
All right, excellent. So what kind of work are we looking for? There's a short and a kind of more substantial answer for this, and I hope that this will be helpful when you're selecting which of the plays you have written or which of the pieces you'd like to share with us. So the short answer is that we are an opportunity for early or mid-career playwrights, and I emphasize of any age, but if your career status is early or mid-career, we're looking for full-length, unproduced, original plays, which are available to be developed, the script, at the BAPF Festival in spring of 2026. Each of those terms, full-length, unproduced, original, we can really get into all of those. If you have questions, I would encourage you to look at the FAQ on our website. I would encourage you to look at the application guidelines that are also linked on our website, and to email me directly at literary@playwrightsfoundation.org. But this is the sort of the real sort of quick gloss of the eligibility that we're looking for. I think the meatier question, though, is what kind of scripts are we looking to read here? Our statement that we settled on is that we are looking for plays which push the boundaries of American theater. This could be in terms of the form, like the formal structure of the play, the tempo, the language, how it exists in a theater, its relationship to an audience, or in the content that the play is putting forward, the identities of the people represented, the subject matter which it is addressing. We feel very strongly that this is part of our local commitment, actually, that this is a Bay Area Playwrights Festival, and that we are looking to further a kind of Bay Area theater aesthetic, which is based in activist theater, pushing formal boundaries. I'm thinking people like Ntozake Shange. I'm thinking people I'm thinking works like Angels in America that are really out there pushing at what is possible on stage in terms of the content or the formal structure of what is there. Again, these must be full-length, unproduced original plays in PDF format. We asked for plays that are primarily in English, although multilingual plays are accepted, and we have a process by which we intake those as well, which we'll discuss, hopefully. Playwrights who have previously applied for the BAPF can apply with a new draft of a play. However, please, if we ask that you do that one time, that if this is a third time, maybe we'd like to see some of your other work as well. Playwrights, we do accept adaptations, but not translations. We need a lot of substantial transformation of the text if you're going to be working in the adaptation sphere. We do not, unfortunately, accept plays that call for a cast size of 9 or more. And that, I emphasize, is the number of actors. If there is extensive doubling with 4 people and they play like 30 characters, I'm actually really intrigued by that, honestly. But unfortunately, in terms of the resources that we have available to us, we have to cut a line at 8 actors is our maximum. And again, unfortunately, we do not accept musicals at this time, and we do not accept plays with music. You may ask yourself, well, what is a play with music? There's a lengthy text on this slide here. We've received several questions about this, and we've gotten, I think, pretty good at responding to them. At this moment, with the resources that are available to our festival, we are not able to support the development of music specific to a project. Over a past couple of experiences, we've come to understand that if there is a play where the development of the musical element is so substantial that it would require things like separate music rehearsals, separate music or singing auditions, work on score, particularly. If that is a vital and integral part of that play, unfortunately, we don't have the capability to address that element of it right now. And we ask that you submit maybe some of your other work. If there is music incidentally within the play, if there's what we call diegetic music, that is perhaps acceptable. If there is someone singing briefly, perhaps you understand what I mean. I'm encouraging us to think about plays with music as being a kind of genre, including things like Peter and the Starcatcher or Stereophonic, plays where, and this is unfortunately not the opportunity for those at this time. Hopefully in the future, we'll have more resources and we'll be able to return to developing those things. But for BAPF 47, this is what we are able to do right now. Okay, moving forward, please. Now to talk about what work to send in, I'm going to kick it to Aidaa to speak a little bit about this.
Yes. Yeah, this is the most fun topic, right? Like, what play do you want to share? I also want to highlight that if you have questions that are coming up as we're talking, please drop them in the chat because we are going to do a Q&A at the end. So yeah, deciding which play you want to send in. I think the most important thing is that you feel confident that your piece has all of the ingredients that are going to make it a full-length piece. And what I mean by that is, that it might not be fully cooked yet, but you do have all the ingredients. During the first round, and we will talk more about the review process and what that relationship that you're going to be building with the readers is like. Your play is read on its own, and you want to build that relationship with the readers where they are buying into your vision and trusting that you can complete the story that you're telling, that you can execute your vision. So there might be some sections that are a little bit underwritten. There might be some voices in your play that are not as clear. I know in my play, there were even some scenes that it sort of fell on a bit of an edge between, is this a stage direction or is this a description? But the entire piece, when I submitted it, was a full-length piece, and it did tell its story. It endeavored to tell the story that it's telling. So I think that, you know, if you feel that your piece can articulate its vision on its own, it might not be full, but it can get that reader to say, oh, I see where this is going. And then I would say a personal tip is, you know, sometimes writers, we can get really, you know, we can have really high expectations for what our pieces are going to be. And that's beautiful. And sometimes we can get caught up in, like, if the structure is absolutely perfect. And I would say that the clarity of the voices of your characters and the depth and the resonance that your characters are able to bring to whoever is reading your script, that's going to be so valuable, because during this process, you're going to have the opportunity to work with a director and a dramaturg and perhaps a consultant who can help you with your architecture. But if the heartbeat is missing from your piece, if you can't look at it and be like, it's alive a little bit, then then maybe other people aren't also going to look at it and have that feeling. So you want to feel like your piece has started to have that sense of a heartbeat. You know, you can smell the aromas, you know, when you're cooking, you walk in the house, you're like, I can smell it. I can smell the ingredients cooking. So yeah, that's how I would describe it. Did I miss anything? Yeah, I think the last thing I would say is that as you're looking at your overall application, as Jeff stated earlier, there's going to be an opportunity for a goal statement. If you make it into rounds further down the line, your CV will be considered and brought into the mix. So you can think of the entire application as an opportunity to really articulate your voice as a writer, and who you are and what you're bringing to the table. But again, in the very first round, it's just going to be your play making its case and its story. So yeah, that's how you can, that's a little bit of ways you can navigate which play to share with us.
Thank you, Aidaa. And to kind of move this forward as well, just to remember that this is a development process, right? We are not looking for works that you feel are already to a level that can be produced tomorrow, right? You can go right to the presses. We want you to come into this process with questions, with big questions about your play. We want you to have we want you to take risks and take big swings in your process. There are again, you're going to be working with your dramaturg and your director, and also in the actual festival process, you have a week of rehearsal, you have a showing, and then you have opportunity to learn from that showing, learn from what you learned in the rehearsal in week 1, and make swings in week 2 as well. And you have more rehearsals and then another showing, right? So it's something that we really want you to think about. What is the play that, as Aidaa was saying, has the heart, has the full length, have all the ingredients, but I have some big questions to ask. I have some big swings to take. And these readings are workshop opportunities to workshop new ideas. We have playwrights who try brand new endings, right? From week 1 to week 2, new endings are written or explored. Order of scenes are shifted and explored and changed. Sometimes characters disappear in between the retreat and the actual start of rehearsals, and we welcome that. We want you to feel as though you can ask those big questions in this developmental process, so that when you leave the process, you can either have a text that you're ready to send off to producers, or you have some you've made some really clear ideas about what your next steps are going to be in your developmental journey. So yeah, please you to be excited about the future of this production. We want to be excited with you, and we also support you and championing you on the national and the local level to make sure that your work that comes out of the festival is seen by our community as well.
Thank you, AeJay.
And I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Oh, thank you. That was really beautiful. I'm going to speak to you now about the application process itself, and I'll try to be concise, I think, in this so we can get to your questions. Again, I encourage you, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll address them as well. So I want to talk a little bit about history and changes. After every application cycle, we engage in a sort of postmortem of our process that includes surveys, which are circulated to applicants and selected playwrights. It included this time focus groups. As part of our playwright-centered model, we are really interested in what playwrights have to say to us, and we're trying to integrate those changes all the time and do better. So much of this is staying the same if you applied for BAPF 46. We're continuing to use the Wise Hive system, which we'll speak about further. If you previously built a profile, you will not need to build a new one. Eligibility requirements are almost exactly the same as they were for last cycle. We are retaining a sliding scale fee structure and a fee waiver system, which we will also discuss. The structure of the review process, where we have 3 rounds, a national committee at the first round, a semifinalist and a finalist round, with a Bay Area based selection committee. That is continuing. The number of scripts selected remains the same, which will be 5. The breakdown of those, which are 2 Bay Area plays and then 3 national plays at least, will remain the same. And again, we continue to encourage y'all, if this is maybe not the cycle for you, if you don't have a piece that's quite ready yet, we highly encourage y'all, again, as we have in past cycles, to consider being a reader. This is a fun, highly illuminating, and compensated opportunity. I promise you'll learn a whole lot, and you will also get a fee waiver for the next BAPF cycle. Some changes that we are making, however, I'd like to highlight is that we're shifting some of the application form. We received some feedback that the form can be a little onerous in terms of the labor that it asks of playwrights and the sort of texts that we ask them to generate. So we're trying to lessen that and condense the questions down as much as we can. We are also trying to streamline the labor that we ask of our reviewers as well, which I can speak about if you're curious. And just generally speaking, there are fewer free response text questions than there were before. But we'll discuss what those are, what we've settled on so far. So some things that I would recommend that you might want to prepare for the application, maybe even before the application launches, which will be on the 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific. A resume, not an academic CV, but we were specifically looking for a resume, which is showing us your writing and theater credentials. This will be helpful to us at the staff review level, the semifinalist level, and the finalist level. At the initial screen, I want to emphasize the readers will only be receiving your play, pretty much, and your name. If you need help preparing a resume, feel free to please contact me and we can chat further. I'm very excited to do that. Yes, okay, great. We're also going to ask for some open-ended response questions. The first of these is a synopsis of your play. This could be highly specific. It could be kind of like marketing copy for your script. That's great. It could also be something which is more metaphorical. It could give us the flavor of the world. I think that both of these are great options and something that we encourage you all to sort of make your voice heard here. One thing I'll be saying throughout this is that these moments, the synopsis, the growth statement, and the last open response question are all places where we can hear your voice as a writer independent of the script and the words that the characters are speaking. I think this is very, very helpful for us and something that I encourage you to think of as a place of creativity if it's helpful to you. We're going to ask for sort of areas of growth statement, and we've worked a lot around this. And what we've settled on is a 3 to 4 areas of growth that you'd like to pursue through this opportunity. If there are things that are incomplete in the script, could you highlight why or where you're headed in the goals? We're also interested in specifically understanding more of your project and professional goals. One thing about the feedback that we've gotten from past review cycles is that, especially at the semifinalist and the finalist round, people start making a lot of assumptions about the careers of the artists that we're dealing with. And we're interested in taking that kind of ambiguity out and giving you perhaps a place to explore and explain what this might mean to you specifically in your own words. We are not asking for a general artistic statement. We're trying to center this script, this project, and your hopes for it in this development process. We're trying to help you meet your goals and understand what they are, basically, versus what we infer them to be. Let's see. Well, we put a word count on this. We're asking for an efficient amount of text here. Which is a value of ours, be specific and concise. Okay, great. There is another section which is, oh yes, we have some examples up here. This is also, I believe, in the guidelines, correct, Abby? But there are some examples of some successful sort of areas of growth statements that we would encourage you to think of. There is an optional, and I emphasize again, optional section, which is about, is there anything else you would like us to know to help understand your script and how you can best support this project? This is, I think, just our space. If there is anything that cannot be addressed or that you really feel like it needs to be understood that wasn't happening anywhere else in the application, this is your space to do so. And again, in interest of trying to save the amount of labor that we're asking of y'all as applicants, you do not have to respond in this section. It is absolutely okay. It is not a tick against you if you do not. Okay, great. Yeah, and it's, you can see it's very brief, 75 words. You know, we're asking for like true concision here. But yes. So moving on, the review timeline. Applications are going to open on September 30th, which I believe is a Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific, and they will close either 2 weeks later, which is October 14th, or when we reach 600 applications, whichever comes first. And on the website, we'll have a counter going of where we are in the application process, so you know where we are. Some more information for you. The initial script review will start in mid-October. The national committee will finish up in January. There's going to be a semifinalist and then a finalist round, wrapping up with final selection sometime around May 2025. At each stage, it's very important to us, you'll be notified of your status if you are in competition. I really do not want playwrights to be waiting until May to learn that they did not advance to the semifinalist round. We're going to try to be transparent with you and tell you as things are going forward. I want to emphasize that we are very proud to endorse and like provide quotes for semifinalist and finalist scripts. These can be very helpful on your like NPX profile, on your personal website. This is a service that we try to honor people who advance in the competition, but don't make it into like the 5 that we actually end up selecting. I want to speak, if I can, very briefly about the actual evaluation process, as I've been working on it kind of hard over the past couple of months. In the evaluation process, to give you an idea of how we're moving at the national committee level, the first screen, we are asking basically 4 questions for reviewers to take in after they've read your play in full and assess. Those questions are, how distinct, clear, and unique is the playwright's voice in this script? Please rate the strength of the playwright's technical skills. How strong is the potential or promise for this play? And there is an open response, which is share more about your response to this play, about why you're rating these things the way that you are. And a final question, which is, would you recommend that this application advance to the semifinalist round? I want to emphasize that we're trying to build this in a way that allows people to assess your play while trying to account for any bias that they might be bringing in culturally, aesthetically into this process. So we're looking for the clarity of your voice versus like, is the playwright's voice like sexy or good, you know? What is the skill that's being displayed versus do I like the skill that is being displayed? I want to talk about another thing, which is that we'll have 2 reviewers on, we'll have at least 2 reads of your script in the initial level. We are interested, of course, in plays that score very highly with both reviewers. Also, we are as an organization very curious about scripts where there is divergence between the reviewers. If one person rates your script very low, which I'm sure will not happen, and someone writes it really, really high, we specifically investigate those situations because they intrigue us. And we're just like, I'm personally very curious about that, but that's one of our values as an org. So I want to emphasize that one negative review will not sink your script. If you get someone who just doesn't like it, and they really are like 111 across the board, that is not enough to keep you from advancing in this process. I encourage you to look at the guidelines and think about them as you are building your application, and also specifically choosing the work that you put forward here. So I want to encourage you to take big risks. I want to encourage you to take big swings and to know that we are at every level trying to account for bias, basically cultural or aesthetic. Okay, so now can we speak about the application portal a little bit, Abby?
Ooh, can I jump in and ask one question before we move on?
Oh, please.
Will reviewers' feedback be provided after the process?
Reviewer feedback can be provided, especially, I think one thing that we've offered in the past, and AeJay, maybe jump in if you have more information about this, is that we can offer feedback, especially at like the semifinalist and finalist rounds, where we've had like many substantive reviews of this. I think that is certainly something that we can offer. AeJay, what else? Is there anything else on that point you'd like to raise, maybe?
No, that's a great question. Yes, and you're correct. So at the first national level, we often do not give that feedback, but at the semifinalist and the finalist level, typically the lit manager typically the lit manager, sometimes artistic producer, send out information about what the community were, some thoughts that they really enjoyed, and then also talk about some things that they had questions about. So you will and you can request and you can receive that information as well.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that, guys.
Yeah. And then Abby, thank you for putting this up. I would just highlight again, there's more information about all these processes, where our values are landing on this and everything is on the Playwrights Foundation website, the application guidelines, which are there. And if you have further questions, please contact me directly at literary@playwrightsfoundation.org.
Beautiful. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about our application portal, but in order to do that, I'm going to need to stop sharing my screen for this slideshow. And I ask for your patience and grace as I'm going to be navigating in between different windows right now. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to head over to our Playwrights Foundation website, which is the first stop on our journey to applying to BAPF 47. So we're going to stop that real fast.
And as you are transitioning, Laura, I see your question in the chat. Yes, it is okay to submit your play if it has been submitted for other development opportunities.
Beautiful. So can everyone see the Bay Area Playwrights Foundation website? Yes, yes, yes. Great. So under our programs, you're going to see the Bay Area Playwrights Festival drop-down menu. And the very first item that you could select is apply to BAPF 47. We'll also have a link down here on our homepage where you can learn more. And this button will take you there. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, which takes you to our BAPF 47 application page. This page, in addition to just defining our process and providing information, has some really helpful links here that I think you're going to be referring to all of the time. So before I go directly into the portal and jump back into our slideshow, I do want to show you these a little bit. We talked extensively about our application guidelines. So I'm going to click on those right now really quickly. Can everyone see these guidelines? Great. So one thing that I just want to emphasize about these guidelines, we have our eligibility information here, instructions on how to apply. This information will live in multiple places. But one thing that I do want to point out is our frequently asked questions. There's a date here that says updated September 16th. So this is somewhat of a living document because we won't be changing any sort of like application criteria or anything like that. But what we will be adding to these guidelines are if we get a frequently asked question in our inbox as soon as our application opens up, if we notice a pattern, we're just going to continue to add this here so it's as accessible as possible. So those are our guidelines, and you can jump down to any of these questions and take a look at some of these answers here. Once again, this will probably be your most thorough resource for how to apply to BAPF. So that is linked directly onto our website. And now we're back to the page. So our application portal opens on September 30th at 9 a.m. But just in case you want to take a look at those questions, be reminded once again, we will be sharing these slides, but the other resource that we've linked here is the application preview that has these questions. So you'll be asked like your first name, last name. This is just all of that information that is on the portal living in this Google Doc right now. So you can take the time to draft your questions before that portal opens, just so y'all could have all the information as much as possible. This includes payment information, the open-ended questions, and everything that lives on that portal. So that is linked directly onto our website. So as we navigate this page here, we have this big button that says click to apply for BAPF 47. Once again, that portal is not open right now. So if you click it, which I will, it'll just say sign up will open at that time. But so just so you know, exactly at 9 a.m. Pacific time on September 30th, this will open up and you'll be able to fill out your application. So I'm going to exit the website right now and hop back into the slideshow so I can show you what that looks like, and we can talk about filling in the application itself. So thank you for holding. All right, so can everyone see my screen or no? All right, let me stop sharing one moment. Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna go back here. Great. Are we back in? Do we see the application portal slide? Perfect.
Yes,
All right,
we do.
so once you click on the application portal and that is open and available to folks, you're going to be guided to this screen. So if you have already created a profile and have applied to BAPF before, you would just have to sign in. All those profiles still exist. But if this is your first time applying to BAPF, you're going to need an account. So you're going to have to hit sign up. And once you do, you're going to be asked to create an applicant profile to get started. So it'll look like this, and you'll click on this rectangle. And once you do, it'll just ask you some basic information, your first name, your last name, your full name or pen name. So this is how you would like to be recognized as a writer, your pronouns, email. And I highly encourage folks, if you are not signed up for our newsletter already, to do so. That's where you'll get the most updated information, any updates on the festival, as well as some fun, tidbits about alumni news and upcoming events for us. So you'll fill in your telephone and address information as well. You'll also be asked some demographic information, which I believe is optional, but what this helps us do is really gives us a reference as we build our national review committee. So we try and build a very diverse national committee. And this information just helps us ensure that we are as inclusive and equitable as possible, and that we build a national committee, which is built up of like 120 plus people that is as diverse as the writers who apply. So we encourage folks to fill this out if you can, but it is optional, but it would definitely help us out as we're building our community of readers. So scrolling along, once you complete the applicant profile, you'll be back on this page and it'll say applicant profile complete. We do have a color-coded system once you get started into your application. So you'll hit Get Started and you'll have this status bar on the homepage. So if it is blue, that means there's an action that is required and it needs your attention. If you come up on red in this application, which is very unlikely, that means there is some sort of error that you need to address. If you do encounter any kind of technical error, once again, please feel free to email us at literary@playwrightsfoundation.org and we can help you with any technical assistance. And once the status bar is gray, that means your application is under review and no action needs to be taken. So once you hit Get Started, you're going to be guided through the application. It's just emphasizing these steps again. This is a screenshot from our last cycle. So these dates are a little outdated, but they'll be updated with this cycle. So once again, this is the application portal. So it'll ask all of this information of you. And if you create your profile, this will be auto-loaded. So we highly encourage folks that once that application portal is open to complete the profile first. You could edit it after you've created it, but just try and create that first and as early as you can. The first question is, it's going to ask you if you meet all of the following criteria. And once again, this information is on our guidelines and it is in the application preview. So it's going to ask you some various questions about if you reside in the United States and are currently eligible to work in the US, if you are an early or mid-career playwright, if your project, meets all that criteria and that it is a full-length unproduced play, and that this is a play that has not been sent in twice for the BAPF selection process, that it is not a musical or a play with music, and that it has a cast of 8 or fewer actors. And once again, just placing emphasis that this is not parts, this is the number of actors in your play. So scrolling right along, actually, one thing that I will add that is not on this screen is that we are going to add a question about if your play is in any other languages. So that's not visible here, but that's very important to us so that we are able to find a reader that speaks that language that could read your script. So moving right along. So once again, we ask, that criteria question. If you are a resident of the Bay Area, the title of your play, and these are the open-ended questions that we reviewed before. So this asks you to prepare a 1 to 2 sentence synopsis of your play. I just want to point out the 100-word limit again. Those limits are once again available in the preview application. It asks you to update your resume and CV and your script in PDF form. And then we have these boxes for these open-ended questions as well, the area of growth statement, and then the optional question, is there anything else you'd like us to know, which will help us understand your script. You're going to be asked to select the stage of your career as well, whether that's early career or mid-career playwright. Once again, that means you could be of any age. This is just the stage you are as a playwright. And we have further definitions on our application guidelines. So we're going to reach the payment section. So our fee is based on a sliding scale from $5 to $45. I just want to emphasize that this helps us pay our national committee of readers who are paid per script. But if you do have a financial consideration, if you are a student or if you are a previous reader or a Playwrights Foundation alumni, you are able to apply for a fee waiver. So you could request a fee waiver down below here. And even if you are requesting a fee waiver, you do still have to select sort of an amount that you would pay for the script. It's just in order to move on. And so you would just select if you would want that waiver. And then if you do request a fee waiver, we have these options here. And if you select other, then you would just let us know a little bit about what's going on. And then we reach the end of the application. So once we reach the end of the application, you could either save this as a draft or mark it as complete. I also want to say that we do send a survey to all the playwrights to collect feedback about how we can make this process more streamlined. We're always in the business of trying to improve this process and make it as easy and as accessible as possible. So your feedback is so helpful to us. So as we move on and we hit mark is complete, you're going to be taken back to this home page. So one thing I want to emphasize that's really important is that this is still going to be in blue, and that's because we have yet to process the actual payment. So once you send in your application, Playwrights Foundation will send you an invoice to that amount that you've selected, or it will let you know if we have accepted your fee waiver. And once that payment is either sent in or we've accepted it, then your application is considered complete. I also want to emphasize, please request a fee waiver as early as possible. We just encourage folks to apply as early as possible and to make that request. And if you have any questions, always please feel free to be in communication before the portal opens. Once that portal opens, we're here to answer your questions. And I think that is it. The last thing that I'll mention actually about the website. So we'll be updating this as well. Jeffrey mentioned this because we only take 600 scripts and we do have that limit on this website. We will be updating daily is our goal, basically the number of scripts that have been sent in. So you can see, when you're applying, how many scripts we've already received and have taken in as well. So that will also live on our BAPF application page. And I think that is it for that portal. Jeffrey, do you have anything to add?
I would emphasize on that point of the scripts, if I may, that we are counting the number of completed applications, not the number
Oh,
of
yes.
started applications. So it behooves you, if you have the capacity at the moment, to try to prepare as much of this as possible, so that you can move through this quickly. Please, 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 do not let your application linger for several weeks. Unfortunately, we cannot guarantee that we will be able to see it even if you start it, right as the application portal opens. I would just advise you to consider that as we are moving through it. And the end of it, again, is unfortunately the waiver or the payment. That is like the final step. Again, we are counting this by hand. I am the one counting these things. So I will try to be as fair and as clear as possible, but I do ask that once you start an application that you finish it somewhat expeditiously so that you don't get unfortunately cut off somehow at the end. Thank you.
Yeah. I see one great question in the chat regarding this. Is it possible to make a profile before the portal opens?
I think no, actually, unfortunately. This is also my first time with the system as well, but my impression is that it is not unfortunately possible. But as you saw, it's not so involved, hopefully, to actually generate that. But no, I think you have to wait for the portal to open then, yes.
Yes. Are we jumping into the Q&A?
I think we should, yes. Let's try
I
to do
think
this.
we are.
We've asked for a lot of your
Yeah,
time already.
I
Thank
have
you so much for
some.
bearing with us.
Thank
Let's try to
you.
address some of these things. I've been
I
copying them
have
down
some.
here as well, y'all, in the notes.
Oh, awesome.
Um,
The first one I have, which is kind of related to the most recent question from Natalia, is it better to submit a work that has gone through development or a piece that has not had any development at all? And then also if it has had some development or a staged reading, is it still eligible for submission?
I would say if it has, well, I'll touch the eligibility first, and then we'll get into some of the weeds a little bit on this question, maybe. If it has had a staged reading, yes, it is still eligible. If it is, I believe, if it has had a professional production, unfortunately, no. So there's that. I would say, is it better? I would ask, if I was a playwright in this situation, I would ask myself, are there still big swings left to take in this script? What Playwrights Foundation is fundamentally offering you, if you are selected, is for you to sort of take 9 months to develop this play where your play cannot premiere. I emphasize, if this is ready to go, girl, I am so excited for you. I am so proud of you, Chica. Get that play in front of a producer. And make it happen. I would be sad if you had to sit on it for this period when it's actually pretty much cooked. I would say we are if the play is still, I always talk about cakes when I'm talking about plays. This is like my baking dramaturgy. If you're like jiggling the pan and it's like wiggly in the middle still, and you're like, ooh, it's got to sit in the oven for a second, that is, I think, the kind of Goldilocks zone of the plays that would be really benefit from this kind of lengthened out process. So I don't think it's necessarily disqualifying if it's gone through one development program before. And I would also continue to ask, what are the things that you are interested in tackling over this period? But maybe AeJay might be interested in chiming in a little bit about that, if they have any thoughts.
I think that's right.
Cute.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Let's see. What are some other
I also
questions?
I had what makes a strong application question mark, specifically considering the resume.
I would say the resume, part of the work that the resume is doing is, again, not at the initial application screen, but at the level where the Playwrights Foundation Literary Office is reading the scripts to advance them to semifinalist. In the semifinalist deliberation, in the finalist deliberation, I think that is where the resume comes out. And what we are doing there is to understand what this opportunity means to you and like what it could help you accomplish as well. I would say specifically, this came up actually, I think in the last year's Q&A session. The resume, we are interested in what kind of writing you are doing specifically. We are most interested in your playwriting. We're also kind of interested in your other writing work. We've had people who spoke extensively about their poetry background, for example, and their sort of artistic CV, and that's very interesting as well. We are not, I would emphasize, vetting people's educational experiences, perhaps, is a way of putting that delicately. We are not trying to see, for example, does this person have an MFA? And if they do not, then we're not going to take it. That's not the world that we're in here at Playwrights Foundation. And in terms of what makes it strong application, when it comes to the artistic resume, it is again giving us a sense of who you are, what this project means to you, and like where it lives in your artistic life, I think is what would be helpful for us as a staff, and then in the semifinalist and finalist level. I don't know, Aidaa, do you have any thoughts on what makes a strong application in that, or especially around the resume?
Yeah, I think speaking to other types of writing is interesting because again, it's helping the readers gain a sense of your voice. And I think it can be really clarifying for perhaps like what your artistic goals are, to know what other types of work you do. And yeah, again, it's all about, building the sense of momentum and excitement that the readers and that eventually the staff are going to be considering, about where, how is this process going to really serve this play? And also, how can the world be served by this play? And so I think that you want to consider, building there's the story within the story. You have your play, and then you have the story of you as a writer that you get to tell in your resume and in some of those other sections.
Okay, Laura, I think asks a similar related question, which is, it sounds more like a biographical statement versus a resume. I don't necessarily think that's the case, actually, Laura. It is still I would think of a sort of imagine a bulleted list of experiences. But what I would emphasize is that it is not like a CV, an academic CV. I am coming out of a world of grad school. And it is not the kind of thing that I would launch to like try to get an academic job. That's not the kind of information that's very helpful here. But we are interested in your credits specifically. Yes, I hope that's illuminating versus being a kind of
Yeah.
like, if you're a Drag Race fan, I was born at a very young age, and for the first several years I couldn't even walk. That is not quite what we're looking for in that document, I think.
So if I could speak to that a little bit. So
Please.
before I started as artistic producer, I was one of the readers in the for the semi and finalist level. And the resume, there is no one policing or monitoring or surveilling, or even there's no rubric of the resume. We're not looking at, did this person write a well-formed resume? What we are looking at is what are some of your experiences? What are some of your other writings? Have you had other developmental opportunities? Have you had other works that have been produced, but maybe this work is not? There are some resumes that are extensive with multiple plays, and there were some resumes that had 1 or 2 items in which someone was maybe just coming out of school. Those both, neither of those resumes would have boosted someone or dinged someone on its own, right? We are really looking at a holistic candidate. And so the something that Jeffrey mentioned earlier is that you have a brief kind of artistic statement. It's not really an artistic statement, but it is like a brief writing about goals and about letting us know really what this process will be for you. And that is going to be in relationship to the resume, in relationship to the writing, in relationship to what the reviewers are saying about your work as well. So know that there's not one element of this process that you get a specific ding on in any way. Just to it's all looked at collectively, cohesively, together.
Yeah, I think to give an example from my experience submitting my play, for example, had a lot of historical content and was very much diving into the past and into the present. And if someone looked at my resume, they might notice that that's something I like to do. That some of my other works have kind of echoes of that going on in it. So I think in terms of what I meant by like the story of you as a writer, it is like technically you're thinking more like this is shaped like a resume, but they're going to be, cross-referencing between, where you're at, perhaps creatively, perhaps professionally, to understand more about your goals. And then I wanted to ask another question, which is about theatrical experience in general, specifically because I'm like a all-around thespian. So I know I'm curious, there might be other folks who wear a lot of different hats, and if that's something that they should think about including. If you have writing experience, maybe you've been a director, maybe you've also been a stage manager, a producer. Is that something that you feel like is relevant in the resume? It should be theatrical experience or just writing experience?
I would say center your writing experience, but we are really looking to get to know you, right? We don't do full interviews. We don't get to sit down with you necessarily and have kind of an extensive conversation about you and your work. So I think any information that you want to gift us that will help us learn you or know you in as a holistic artist in a specific way included. Again, that we're not, there aren't any parameters that say you can't tell us that you used to work for National Geographic and you went on a 4-year photograph, nature photography tour in that position, right? That gives us more information about you, especially if the work you're interested in writing is about nature, is about kind of the connection between the human experience and the and travel, right? Like it just gives us more information. So I would just encourage you not to think too much about, oh, should this not be on the resume? Should it be on the resume? I think center your writing, right? We want to know about your writing, and everything else is candidate, that we get to know you more. We get to just know you more. And that's really the benefit of having the resume and your goals, is so we know you beyond and in relationship to your submission.
I would just add a little context to that as well. Thank you so much, AeJay. Just to be transparent, part of the great challenge of designing a festival application like this is trying to create an environment where you can give us enough information without compelling you to give to do a whole lot of work that you don't necessarily need to do. You know, it's a very tricky, it's like really the beautiful art of trying to do this, and it's very challenging. But we do want to get to know you. And we also don't want to feel compelled to like to press all the buttons at once, if you will. So yeah, I don't know. We are always working. We always are accepting feedback of how we can do it better. But this is a value that's very important to us, is to make sure that this is as as the labor ask of y'all, which you are not being compensated for. I will note, as playwrights, this is so often the case, is not too onerous as well. But we also don't want. We're also curious about you. We want to get to know you too. So, yeah. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. What else? What else? What else?
I think
Is it
we
okay?
covered- Yeah. Oh, go.
I see a question here again from Marissa. Is it okay if your script changes between the time of your submission and acceptance slash the BAPF process starts? Yes, I would say. We expect that these are works that are in progress. If you are selected and you show up with a script that has changed since you applied, I don't think that that would be, we wouldn't like take away your selection or whatever. If that's your fear, hopefully it's not. I think a very interesting question related to this, if I may say, is what happens if your script is changing over the course of the application process, which I believe I'm 99.95% certain that we have capacity for you to submit, if you advance into the semifinalist stage, to submit new drafts of your script as well. And we are acknowledging that, like so many things with BAPF 47, the development process is a lot longer and more stretched out than it would be for a lot of other festivals. The application process as well is perhaps a little bit longer and more stretched out. And y'all are creative people. I can't ask you to just like freeze this project that's so exciting to you in that time. So there's a tolerance for that as well. There's an opportunity, excuse me, to show that as well.
Yes, and that has been the case for for festivals before this as well. At each stage of the process, we do ask, is this the draft you want to send to the next stage, or have you worked on a new draft? So that is definitely the case. There are some, just from a producerial point of view, there are some limitations when it comes to number of characters, for instance. So if you submit a play that originally is 3 characters, and then all of a sudden it's 8 characters, that might actually shift some conversations that we have internally, because it is a balance that we're trying to strike, right, between the number of plays we're able to produce in the festival and the number of actors we can hire. So it's just, from a producerial point of view, we understand you if you remove a character or add a character, like, we understand those things. But if it becomes, you're adding 2 characters and then 4 characters, that is a little bit more difficult for us, and it's a different conversation that we might have. And by characters, I mean actors, not necessarily. You can add characters, and as long as it's still the same amount of actors, is what I want to clarify.
Maybe it's a puppet. Who knows?
I see another question in the chat, which how would you define early career playwright?
We frankly outsource some of this definition to the Dramatist Guild, which, if y'all are not aware, is an incredible resource that I highly encourage you to become familiar with. But they have definitions of early and mid-career playwright that we attempt to follow. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I think that the barrier for maybe mid-career, oh, there it is. Thank you so much. We have that provided for you. Abby has helpfully put that in the chat. We also, I believe, have that on the application guidelines, correct? As well, if you're looking for that information.
And I see one more at the bottom, back to the resume question. Natalia asking, would it be helpful in the resume to talk about genres, styles of pieces we've written before? AeJay, Jeff, any more ideas about the depth of the resume?
Yeah, I really, I believe it's personal choice, right? I think if you're writing in a certain genre and you're wanting to show that you have a certain level of potential expertise or interest in said genre, right? If you're like, I'm writing a Western and I've written Westerns for 10 years and this is really kind of my love language, that's information for us, right? But it's not something that we're really not looking to see if you have written in dramatic form and in surrealism and in magical realism. Like we don't need, we're not interested in kind of quantifying your skill in that way. I think that is what Jeffrey's kind of alluding to when it comes to kind of like the academic CV, where they're looking for breadth and depth, and kind of those CV presentations. That is not something that we will seek, because we understand that people's journey towards playwriting is very varied, right? And so some folk are submitting their work and this is their first work they're submitting, and they spent their entire career as a teacher of mathematics, right? And so and now they're jumping into the world of trying to figure out what it means to be a dramatist. And so we're really not trying to dictate or limit or judge based on resume. Really, it's really about information, right? So if you believe if you believe that genres and styles will help us understand more about you as a writer, if you believe that they'll help us learn more about the play you're gifted us, great, conclude it. But it's really important that I think people get anxieties around a resume, right? We all do get anxiety around resume, and I think that our goal in this team is to make sure that your anxiety is lessened as much as possible. So we really don't want that to be a barrier of entry at all, right? Gift us what you would like. If that is in the form, there were some resumes that were more in form of narratives versus in forms of kind of bulleted list. And there have been resumes that are in like the standard columns and that have it professionally presented in certain ways, right? That is not, it is a part of the information that we're looking for. Just in my experience. And I've been on the committee. I was on the committee for 3 years, and before I became artistic producer. So this will be my 4th festival with the team. And so it just has never come up, the question of, is this resume styled correctly? Like it just has never been a question at all.
And if you're worried or don't have ideas, I would say, to look up a writer that you love or a playwright that you admire. Maybe not someone that's like ultra famous, because they might not have a resume online anymore. But you can look at maybe someone who you respect or whose work you like, and just see how they have maybe just like structured their an outline of their writing life as inspiration if you're having questions about. I know for me too, I'm like thinking, okay, when making a writing resume, it is a bit different than applying for other jobs. So how do you do it? So if you're having a lack of structural inspiration, it's always a great idea to look at someone that you admire and just see how did they do it. And then when you take it on, like just like AeJay's saying, it's not going to be held against you. It's really about just gaining as much information as possible.
Yeah, I think that also goes for things like the synopsis too, honestly. If there's a play that you really love, like get on MPX, like see some other, or like go to the bookstore, like how is it described in this way that's evocative and also brief. It gives you the detail, the flavor, whatever. I think that's a really great place to do it. Again, I also saying, I mean, as I say that out loud, I'm also coming back to this issue of the labor that we do as artists that often we're just not compensated for. But please, I would love to be a resource for y'all. Please contact us if you have any questions about any of this information, any of these documents, any of these pieces. And we're really here to support you and try to ease you into this and make this as fun and simple as a process as we can for y'all. All right, are there any other questions that we've yet to address?
I think we answered the ones I wrote down. I'm
Okay, cute.
scoping it out. I think we've answered all the questions that I saw in the chat. Are
Nice.
there any last minute questions that anyone wants to drop?
Breaking news.
And not to put you on the spot, Aidaa, as well, but just wondering if there's anything else you'd like to share about your experience too going through BAPF, just experiencing like the whole cycle and being part of the cohort. Also anything about like once you are accepted, like what that process is like. I know that we're specifically talking about applications as well, and we've talked about like the retreat process, but just wanted to open up that part as well as you're considering your whole holistic experience.
Yeah, I think one of the most striking experiences to me about this process, and this is partially with the context that I do live in the Bay Area, but after I had been selected, meeting people who were like, "Oh, I read your play, and I'm so excited about it," and that was very overwhelming because I was like, I didn't, you sometimes when you submit to something, it feels like it's anonymous in a weird way. And then to actually run into people who are like, oh, I read your play. And so a lot of the folks who are reading and who are readers are like AeJay, like super dedicated, and they are curious theater people that are looking at your play with excitement and curiosity and love. And so I think that's really exciting. And also, to know that there are, again, because it's a pool of people who are signing up to, read plays, they're interested anyway. So I think that's another great way to sort of frame the whole process is that, even though it is a big pool, there's all these different people that are getting a chance to be exposed to your play, or to just be exposed to your voice. And so I really like to take that with me into the process. And then also, yeah, I think that the process was able to connect me with really, really smart, thoughtful people to be a part of the team. I was a bit envious of the artists who weren't from the Bay Area because when we all got together, I was like, oh my God, it's like really cool people. And I don't think everybody else understands how cool they are because they don't have to deal with how cool they are every day. So I definitely think as you're thinking about what you want to submit, considering that like what are you working on? What questions do you have for a nationally acclaimed director? What questions do you have for a dramaturg that has a PhD? These are though that's a great way to think about, what are you trying to ask? And I definitely brought a play to the table that I kind of felt like I couldn't really just finish in a vacuum. And I really feel like the team that the Bay Area Playwrights Festival was able to bring together were able to really, challenge me in a good way and really ask deep questions. And even in informal settings, the conversations that I was able to have with AeJay and with the literary manager at the time and with Jess, all of that was really, really deep. And so I think that that's something that's really exciting about what the Playwrights Foundation is doing. And yeah, so I think, really, really bring it in your application. This is the time to bring it.
Yes, and Aidaa just mentioned Jess, and I don't think we mentioned her name in the space yet, but Jessica Birdbiza is our executive artistic director, who is also a big part of this process and is our colleague and is currently on maternity leave with a little baby at home, and so he's so handsome. But she is also a part of the process and will be a resource to you all as well. Jeffrey is our primary resource for this process, so make sure that if you have any questions, Lit Manager will be the one to go to. but this entire team here, including Jessica, Aidaa, Abby, we're all here to support you. We all love playwrights. We all are like your champions. We want your works to be in the hands of our readers. So please, 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 if you have questions, let us know. Jeffrey will answer them. And if Jeffrey doesn't know, Jeffrey will follow us in and make sure that your question is 100% answered. So just wanted to lift up Jessica in this space as well. Thank you, Aidaa.
All right. Are we ready to wrap up then, do you think, everybody? Okay, great. I think that there's a late breaking question I think we might have addressed. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Again, we are an organization that exists to serve playwrights. That is our central mission. We cannot do the things that we do without you trusting us with your work, and it's really such a gift that you give us your time in this way. And I hope that we've inspired some confidence in this process that we're building here. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We really exist to help you. So yeah, thank you again. And
Wait, I have one. I have one more question. Okay. If one decides that they would like to be a reader how do you do it?
You send an email with a resume and a brief statement of your interest to me, to Literary at Playwrights Foundation. We'll have more information about the reader process that's coming out once we launch the application. Once we get after that, we can kind of pivot a little bit in our attention to onboarding our national committee readers. We're also at the Bay Area level. We are, of course, recruiting people for our local literary council that manages the semifinalist and finalist rounds as well. But yeah, just you get in contact with me and then we'll take it from there.
And I have popped that link on our website in the chat as well. You can read about how to be a reader and where to send in your resume and your interest over to Jeffrey.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.